What you're about to hear is the story of someone who chose to do things differently and a live coaching session about the decisions or struggles behind their success. Welcome to the Lise Bruynooghe podcast. So I'm Lise Bruynooghe, and today I'm joined by Stefan Barac, who's the co-founder of Incluthon. And while he can't count cards like Rain Man in the movie, he recently discovered that he is a person with autism. So maybe we'll hear more about that later in our conversation today, Stefan. You're an industrial designer and mechanical engineer who drives human-centered design, especially access to services within different industries. And you focus on matchmaking, connecting companies with people with disabilities.
Yes.
Companies need more accessibility experts, and people with disabilities want more participation. And Incluthon brings them together. Stefan, a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Lise, for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you. And as you know, this podcast is to show that you don't have to go this usual straight line, and that so many more career pathways and life pathways are possible. Maybe you could start by taking us to a moment in your life where things stopped following the conventional straight line.
The latest one was my last stint as an employee. I got pulled aside for a chat, and that day he said the employment will not be continued. It was expected, because I pressured the company towards accessibility, towards human-centeredness, and the company was not ready as a whole. The company was very, very good company. I still love it, and I appreciate the time that I had there. But that was a moment that gave me a propulsion towards my niche project, which is accessibility. And the moments before, there were many. During my studies, when I finished, my mentor and then professor said, "It's too early for you. It's too early for you." And I said, no, I got to do it. I got to make my diploma and go out of here right now, because I can learn things outside that are different from what I learned in this university. And basically, I picked the worst time because it was 2008. There were two bubbles bursting. I went out full of confidence, like I'm a straight A student and I'll get an employment as a designer somewhere. It's no problem. And basically back then, zero responses to any of my applicants. So wrote 100 or 200, I don't remember anymore. And then I went to study mechanical engineering. My family originally wanted me to go either into teaching or law or medical profession. And then I decided to become a designer, and they were like, "Oh my God, what's he going to do? Is he going to be unemployed?" So I had to promise them to do something useful. And that's why I started to study mechanical engineering. But my heart always lay in designing things, in solving problems.
Do you have a clear understanding of your passions, which is human-centered design and solving problems from that perspective? At the same time, you were trying to accommodate your family's expectations around don't become unemployed and do a serious job, because not everyone will know what accessibility means.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing a little bit more about that so they understand what you're doing these days?
So accessibility can be physical or digital. Like in the physical realm, we talk about rooms being prepared for accessibility needs of people with disabilities, like blind people, wheelchair users, and people on the neurodivergent spectrum, like autism spectrum, ADHD, ADD, epilepsy, for example. And the same goes for the digital room. So in the digital world, over 90% of solutions are not ready for people with disabilities. Not because the solutions would not be there, because within the code, within HTML, for example, it's a must-have. And it's just that frameworks that have come up in the past few years are not adhering to the standards, to the web standards that are out there. And I'm trying to remind people, do it like this. It's better than doing it like that. And there are many devices out there, like screen readers, that are already built into our mobile phones. You can try them out yourself. Like if you search on the web for screen readers, you will find how they're called. On iOS, they're called VoiceOver. And on Google devices, it's called TalkBack. And then you can try to steer through web pages through your mobile phone without looking. So only by voice command and only by hearing your web pages or hearing the offers that are made there. So that's a snippet of accessibility, and my specialty, digital accessibility.
You mentioned two examples, your previous company with whom you remain on good terms, who were not ready, and your university professor saying, Stefan, it's too early. You're leaving too soon. So it seems to be a little bit of a theme in your life, to be ahead of the curve, possibly, or to be somewhere where the world hasn't quite caught up with you yet. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yes, it seems to me that I am like Alice in Wonderland, like the white rabbit with the stopwatch. And I'm always having the feeling that I'm too late. So I'm pushing and pushing and pushing, and then nobody's there. And I always assume it's because people have moved on. It's not a thing anymore. And what I realized over the past few decades, is like, I'm not too late, I'm too early. And it's not that the company didn't want to, it's that they were not seeing how. I was too early, and I didn't have patience for them to get around the corner to figure out how might we make this work as a business. And I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing. It's just me. I've come to terms that that's just me, and maybe I give myself a little bit more time. And so within myself, when I talk with people, it's the same thing. Sometimes my brain is racing so hard that I have to say, okay, now you have to wait for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when the person then doesn't say anything, then we can move on to another topic, or then I can start talking.
I work with a lot of people whose brains function in a similar way to yours. I remember the discussion in a group chat around the agenda for Davos, and someone sent a really cool briefing booklet. One of the persons went through it and said, interesting, but nothing new. And the other lady just responded, yeah, you're ahead of your time. That's why. So it was this sense of, sometimes we are ahead of the time. And then there's this choice, right, of either you slow down and you learn the patience, as you were mentioning, and then you're able to stay within a corporate structure. You just need to be very patient, or you exit and you decide to have your own timeline and be the master of your own speed, which seems to be what you have done.
Kind of.
Kind of? Yeah, tell me more.
I'm a big fan of it's your choice. So yes, but it's not only your doing. So my company was not ready, and I was feeling like a caged tiger. So I was subconsciously already pushing them towards this exit. So I did not quit the company in that kind of sense, but on another kind of level, I triggered them. It's like, either we do this or you quit me, right? And Hartmut, my friend and mentor, my former professor, he taught us it's okay to think like that. He was one of the first people who was challenging me, because I tried to conform to society and I tried blending in to be able to survive in corporate society. And he was telling us, no, it's okay. You have to challenge them. You have to be the thorn in their side. So if you want that, then it's good. For me now, it's unimaginable to go back into corporate life and to subdue myself to corporate structures. So I will try as hard as I can to stay the free radical, as I like to say.
If you focus on that move of, okay, no, I'm going to be true to myself, I'll stop cutting off parts of myself just to fit into the corporate structure. It's more like relearning, this is who I am, and I will wholeheartedly embrace myself. That's how it seems like. What was the impact on yourself and on your leadership?
So on myself, it was a lot of relief. I found out that I'm like a lottery winner in the autistic spectrum. And I also found out that I am just coping with the effects, like the negative effects, my whole life long. And I know that my brain's capacity is making sure that I can mask myself better than others. And basically, I've found a manual when I'm having depressions, or when I'm running into things which comes with dyspraxia, or when I'm getting fidgety. I'm not weird. I've come to terms that this is a normal thing for a person with
your brain wiring.
Yes, thank you. And in this kind of sense, I've come to understand myself. I've come to accept myself. So I like to get as many thoughts as possible when I'm opening up. And I like to get as much participation, active participation out of people with enjoyment. So I always think that I strongly believe that if you play games like service games or strategic games on a grown-up level, people will take away many more insights and a lot of knowledge that they can take and form into wisdom afterwards. And accepting my needs in this whole thing has helped me in measuring when I need breaks. So I'm like a vase. Every day I start empty and all the actions, all the thoughts are pouring in. And if there's too many, I'll either break down or I'll have a meltdown, an internal one. So trying to manage my energies will prevent that. So a breakdown will be I get fever or cramps. That happens after very intense workshops or conferences. And now I'm searching active breaks. A lot of exercises helping me, like weightlifting or high intensity training. This is taking off the stress of my shoulders. And being alone, like not having to talk to people. Don't get me wrong, I love people. I'm loving them to such an extent that I'm dedicating my life to human-centeredness, which is deeply rooted in psychology and behavioralism. But it drains me to think that I have to mask myself, and subconsciously I'm still, when I meet new people or am in groups, I'm still acting to this code of conduct that I've learned before. So I'm still in the process of trying to unlearn and have it more fluent in my life.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I have a lot of clients who are neurodiverse. Some of them are on the autistic spectrum, some have ADD or ADHD, some are gifted, very broad range of ways of just being different. And I think that may be more applicable for our generation, where there was less awareness around neurodiversity when we were small. And so as a result, you don't get any adjustments in school. You don't get any adjustments at university.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows anything, and we don't know anything about it either.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you are different, you then automatically think that you're the one who's at fault. You're the stupid one, right?
Yes.
And so
absolutely.
that impacts your self-confidence so much, because you think, okay, something must be wrong with me. And this knowledge and education we have these days that allows you to say, well, actually, no, nothing's wrong with you, Stefan. You're absolutely normal. You just have a different wiring, and a certain percentage of the population happens to have that wiring. We're all different, even within the label. You have a lot of difference.
Yeah.
And to then realize all the masking that one has done. And the more emotionally intelligent one is, the more adept one is at masking. It is interesting you mentioned that, because I came across several studies that show that women, apparently little girls, mask a lot more effectively than little boys.
Yes.
And to know that this is an issue across genders is really important. And as you said, this letting go of it is a process. You can't just flip the switch and be like, okay, now I stop masking. You have to feel safe enough to not mask. What is most helpful for you as you now have that new awareness about yourself, and as you navigate your steps in entrepreneurship? What gives you the courage to show up as you are every day?
Just understanding like that I am worth something. So before it was always like a chip on the shoulder. I have to prove that I am equal to others. And that came across sometimes like I wanted to outperform others, which was not the intention. The intention was like to prove that I have a right to sit at the table. And so I never really allowed myself any breaks or any mistakes whatsoever. And now I do allow myself to have those. I do set active breaks. So my calendar is completely tacked it. I have a reminder for everything. I have a to-do. I have prioritization for that. Even washing dishes, I have lists on the fridge, and I have a competition with my wife for myself who can do more tasks in one day. And that's helping me. That's motivating me. That's how I work, It's like, as I've discussed with a fellow colleague and co-founder of Incluthon, or they always say, if you know one autist, you know one autist. If you know one neurodivergent person, you know exactly one neurodivergent person. So in research, you have to go deeper. You have to have many more people taking part in studies, not only one. And coming back to what helps me is a strict regulation of my everyday doings, like what I eat, what I do, when I do it. Like I train at a specific time, I eat at specific times or start eating at specific times. I eat the same things, and every variation makes it more insecure for me. But these are kind of securities that help me show up at the other things, because it's quite stressful starting a business. Then you have to travel to Germany, then you travel to the Netherlands, then you travel to Austria or anywhere else, and you're on a conference with hundreds of people, and it's not your everyday routine anymore. So what I try to do, and I fail sometimes, but then I have to analyze the situation and be kind to myself and say, okay, this time it didn't work out, but next time we try to adjust here and there. Let's do this.
I'm picking up the be kind to myself and the constant adjustment of, okay, this worked, this didn't work. How can we improve it going forward? Thank you. So, Stefan, if this conversation today is to be truly useful for you, what would you like to bring?
It's funny that you said that, because that's exactly what my mentor always said. His motto was always be useful. Or be of service. And that's also how I feel. Like you said, be kind to yourself. Maybe we want to talk about self-harm, that if you do not appreciate yourself, then if you cannot switch off. In my case, for example, how it formed me or misshaped me, and how I've learned to untangle this knot, or I'm trying to untangle this knot, because I'm also not there yet.
Can you say a little bit more about self-harm?
Oh, yeah.
What does this actually mean and look like?
Yeah.
And you already have it as a knot, so I don't know if there's something in this metaphor already.
So what I mean with self-harm is basically trying to always put the needs of others before your own needs, and not being able to switch off for that reason, because you always owe something to someone. And then you're like, my 20s, I slept very little, so I tried to prove to everyone that I can work longer. So I worked like for 48 hours straight, one time 72 hours straight. And it was crazy, because I didn't understand the effects that it would have on me, on my brain. I could at one point even start to smell my own feet, although they were not smelling. So just damaged nerves, apparently. This is what I mean with self-harming behavior. Our bodies, our physical embodiment are based in reality, and reality needs feeding, needs downtime, unloading of stress, all the human activities that are specific to our animalistic behavior, because we're animals as any animal or organism that is moving around on this planet. And in this case, I am learning to accept that everything's got its place. So even being lazy is something that is needed, like this procrastination for myself is needed. Otherwise, I harm myself in the sense that I'm overloaded, and then I'll have a fever again. Or I'll be very stressed out with my family, and then I'll take it out on my family.
So it seems to me, as I listen to you, as if there was this drive to be constantly on. You mentioned your professor, the need to be useful to others. You mentioned the 72 hours without sleep. And at the same time, this recognition of, oh, I need food, I need downtime, I need sleep. And you said you connected with being kind to yourself. Is it an exploration around self-care, or how would you phrase it?
I think you're spot on. Self-care is legitimate. And a friend and former colleague asked me once, who's the most important person in your life? And then I said, like, my wife, my son. Yeah. And he was like, and you can't think of anyone else? And I was like, no, not at all. And then he was like, you dummy, because if you do not help yourself, then you cannot help any other person. And that was like the most poignant talk that I had in the past 10 years, where he basically just nailed me to that spot and was like, you're right. Actually, it should be me.
It's good you have this friend. What a gift. I'm curious to hear what your association is with self-care, because what you just shared, I had a similar friend come to me when our son, Julian, our youngest, had cancer. And she was like, Lise, you need to look after yourself, because otherwise you can't be there for him and for everyone else. And I was completely blind to it because for me, self-care was equal to being selfish, and I didn't want to be selfish. So what is your thought construct around self-care? What are your associations with that word?
So my associations with the word self-care are structured approach to taking care of my spirit, taking care of my body, and making it clean to be able to pro-socially interact with other people. So if I'm very overloaded, I will completely unload my negative energy on my environment, which then would further antisocial behavior, because let's say we are in a situation where we talk to each other, and if I would start to emotionally charge at you in any kind of way, then your fight or flight response would trigger and we would have a fight or confrontation of any sort eventually, if neither of us is capable of stopping this or breaking this negative antisocial cycle. And so I associate a lot of cleaning my inner house up to be able to be of use to others more effectively. Like, I can still try to mask that I'm overloaded, but then people will not be able to see the real me. In the past, like friends who are now really great friends, and in the past were acquaintances. There's one in Zurich, and he's my swimming buddy. And he said, since your diagnosis, you're so much more pleasant to be with, because sometimes I felt like I'm talking to a stranger, and it was weird talking to you because I realized something is off. But now you're completely cool. So coming back to self-care with him now after decades, because he's also studied with me in university, I behave like a family member. To be able to interact properly and pro-socially with my outside world, I have to clean up my house to be able to give others the same kind of feeling, so that they will pro-socially react to what I have to say or do.
And it sounds like a really intense ask of yourself to continuously scan where you're at. How am I doing right now? Is it too much? Am I okay? And then 10 minutes later, how am I doing now? Is it too much? Am I okay? And then to obviously learn, sometimes you may be in the middle of a conference. You can't just leave. You're about to deliver your talk in 5 minutes and you are overloaded and it is too much. So you notice it and you're like, shit, it's too much. I'm overloaded and I have to socially perform on the stage because otherwise they'll never invite me again. How do you reconcile those pressures of sometimes you are in a room, like with your friend, like with your close family, or you may be in a situation with other people, but you're able to pull the plug, exit, get your downtime. And sometimes you may be in situations where you don't have that freedom.
So in those situations where I don't have the freedom, so let's go to the easier one. So first, so the easier one is like with my family. Like yesterday, I said to my wife at 6 o'clock, it would be great if I could go for training. I know it's not usual, but I have so many things to do that I didn't manage my training at my time, and I really need to calm down. And after one or two back and forths, because actually I would have had to cook and be present with our son, then she said, you know what, it's fine, just go. And then I went, and afterwards I returned, and then we had a lot of fun for 2 more hours. It was perfect, and I was relaxed. So that's the easy one. When I can relax, or when I can ask for it, I will ask for it. In the past, I wouldn't have asked for it ever, and that would have accumulated to something at a later point, like maybe a year later, or maybe like 3 years later, where I would be completely depressed or in a tough spot, in the lurch. And the tough spot is when you cannot react, or you seemingly cannot react because you have to perform, or the conference is not going to invite you anymore. At that point, I thrive in fight or flight situations. So in those situations, everything becomes super clear. When I'm filled with adrenaline, when I'm filled with fear, then it's the best that I'm working. It's just a very high emotional tax that I'm taking, like the toll afterwards. I might not be able to talk or be with people for like 2 days on a row. So that's the aftermath. But in those situations, most of the times it works. I also had panic attacks, like It was a so-called president's dinner at a conference last year. And it was a very tight room with a lot of people and a lot of voices and very loud. And I was suddenly having this panic attack. And what helped me was talking to my neighbor, focusing just on him and trying to forget everything and everyone else. And if I don't have that, or if I have to enter the stage, another trick of mine when I feel very anxious, I just drop down and do as many push-ups as I can. I bring up my heart rate so high over just like 30 seconds, or do squats or anything that activates me completely, that I forget about the slump that I was in a moment ago. And I also read a book. I got that from my wife as a birthday present. The book is called Presence, and she had this trick in there, like doing the Superman pose in front of a mirror. So if you feel really threatened and you're starting to slump down and lurch down, what I do is I open up and just stand there and I positively talk to myself. That's the first step. But most of the times I'm prepared. And then I just remind myself, okay, it's all good. You've been doing this for the last 10 years. Even if you think that everyone else is more qualified than you can do this. You're here for a reason.
As I listened to you and we looked at various scenarios, and you have strategies and techniques for all of them, and not just one, but several, like, oh, I can do the push-ups, I can do the squats, I can do the Superman pose, I'm here for a reason. Mm-hmm. It's a long list of stuff, and it's been tried and tested over the years, even in the years before you knowing that you have the autism label. You brought this question of self-harm. So where are you now with it? What do we need to explore for you to, have something tangible at the end of our conversation?
How do I not permanently overdo things? So that would be the question that I still know no answers. I know the answers. Do less. I know.
It's so simple, isn't it? What is so difficult about doing less? I guess that's your question. Because, your first question you have an answer to. So now let's look at this one. How do I do less?
Another answer would be just try to do as much as you can. Well, no, actually the answer would be because I never proactively planned in my relaxation time in the past. So now it would be good to basically widen that. Not only the training, not only the eating, but also maybe some downtime in between to plan that as well.
So that's not in your calendar yet?
That's not in my calendar. My calendar has some free spots, but it's only 10, 15 minutes. And if a meeting or if a session goes longer, I do not have an alarm go off, then most of the times I work over those 10, 15 minutes anyway.
So what's the one action now linked to that insight that you'd like to take?
I'd like to take a percentage of my day and reserve that for spontaneous things. If I'm in home office and my wife wants to chat to me, or I want to chat to my wife, there's a time slot for that. There's a time that I've reserved for those kind of things, a budget.
And so if I play devil's advocate, do you have a rough number for your budget? What's the percentage?
Maybe
5,
20%.
10, 15?
I
20?
think it's 20% would be feeling kind of right.
Good. So we have 20% downtime in your calendar. Now, me playing devil's advocate, there's this fantastic project coming along where you could be useful. I'm using that word explicitly, where you could be useful to so many people and change so many lives. And if only you reduce that downtime, or maybe you just skip it entirely today so that you can move a little faster. What do you do?
What my future self would do, or what I normally do?
No, your future self.
Yeah, my future self would not compromise, would be like, hey, or would compromise in the sense of that wait until my next free slot, which is at this kind of time.
Okay. What makes you so confident that you will be that hard in terms of prioritizing your self-care?
Because I'm starting to understand that this is also a necessary part of working, of being able to provide service and to be able to exist. And it's like somebody telling you, hey, you're diabetic, so you should reduce your sugar intake. It's like happened with a person very close to me. And from that moment on, that person was completely just tacting through their intake of food. And person is also related to me. I attribute a lot of my a lot of my workings to that person. So I'm pretty confident that I can make that work. Thanks for getting me there.
You're welcome. I wonder, is there anything else that we've left unexamined when it comes to self-harm that we would still need to look at so we have a really robust way forward for you?
Maybe this fear of missing out.
Mhm.
And it's like, because it's always there. This fear of missing out is always in the back of my head. What if you don't do this? It's like, just imagine what chance that would be. How do I quiet this voice in my head? Don't get me wrong. I love to be curious. This is completely making me who I am, but how can I quiet it down a little bit?
Yeah, so let's give it a go. I was playing devil's advocate just a few seconds earlier. There's this thing that comes along and your day is already full, including your 20% downtime for you. And I'm whispering so loud in your ear, your inner voice of, Stefan, you're missing out so badly. This thing is just the thing to be at. How do you react?
It's funny because it just happened to me on Monday for the next Monday. And I already knew that my plane is just going to land like half an hour earlier. And I was like, I have to be there because this is very good for the open data community. And this is the one chance to participate. I have no idea because I'm actually just doing it. So how would I do it? It's like, okay, how would I do it in a sustainable kind of manner? It'd be like, yeah, I would have to cancel it and say it's not meant to be, because if I work outside of my boundaries, I already know where this is going. I've gone through it so many times. And it's basically just like, do you want to get sick after like the next 2 weeks because of overdoing it? Or do you want to be able to go steady and be on a straight stream?
Can I test something with you?
Yes, please.
And it is testing because I don't know how your brain and how your body works. You mentioned at one point that sometimes if you overdo it, you then need a good 2 days to recover, not seeing anyone. You mentioned also steady flow. It strikes me that your calendar right now is very structured and very regular, that regularity is important. And at the same time, we know that your current life doesn't always afford regularity because you need to travel. That disrupts, obviously, your schedule. So you are able to work with a disrupted schedule, at least for now. And with something where you have this big FOMO thing and you decide, this is worth it, I want to go. So you would disrupt your day. You would overdo on the day, but then you would be taking the next 2 days completely offline and be like, okay, that's the price. If I want to overdo on that day, I need to clear my schedule for the next 2 days so that I can recover. So it's kind of bringing in flexibility within your structure, piecing together information you've given me throughout our conversation.
Actually, that makes sense. And it's now computable for me and then I would have to say which one has priority, like teaching at the university or taking part in this open data community event.
Yeah. Is that event so important that I would be okay to ditch the other 2 days? And then it becomes more of a important is that without ever compromising on your rest. Rest.
Okay. Yeah, then it's clear. Then I already know what I have to do 2 weeks ahead of now.
Cool. So what do you have to do?
Yeah, I have to cancel this event and maybe write to the organizers, hey guys, I'll have teaching the following 2 days and due to my schedule, it won't fit.
Do you have everything you need from our conversation?
Thank you. Yes. It's been great talking with you.
Can I ask you 2 more questions?
Please do.
So 3 years from now, what would you hope to see?
Within myself, a deeper understanding of myself, being more calm and being more at peace with myself. That's where I would like to see myself in 3 years' time. And with my company, I would love to see myself still self-employed and growing this to a scale where companies will finally understand the advantages of including a diverse audience into the process of building services and building real solutions, not just solution proposals that don't work. And with society, I suspect that there are many more people on the autism spectrum out there or in neurodivergent communities than would admit. I even met in private counseling in Switzerland a few people who would say, no, you're not saying that you're a person with autism? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty openly stating that. And they were so astonished. And after I've said, I am on the autistic spectrum, they completely opened up. And from that moment on, it was an autistic person talking with another autistic person without masking. And it was the best feeling ever. So I want to give other people more freedom, or the feeling of freedom, to show themselves and not feel vulnerable, but open.
This is so impactful. It takes me back to a different moment when I was coming back from many, many months in hospital with our youngest son. And you know, those elevator lobbies in big corporations, you have 8 to 10 elevators, and you have those dreaded conversations of, please, long time no see. Did you have a good holiday?
Yeah.
And you're like, what do I say? Do I say, yes, my holiday was fantastic. Actually, you know, I was in the hospital caring for my sick son. Or do I say the truth? And I was really unsure as to what to do. And like you, I opted for disclosure. I opted for saying, well, actually, I wasn't on holiday. I was caring for a son in hospital, and that opened conversations. I had so many colleagues who had been masking in the sense of pretending everything is fine, just going about their jobs. And several of them had children in the same hospital as our son. Some had the same care team, and some had children who had a very low life expectancy, where they didn't know whether the child would make it, and they were just trying to enjoy every single moment. And I had so many beautiful human to human conversations where you truly connect and you truly see the other person. And that is beautiful. It's what you described from, you know, you have one autistic person speaking with another and really seeing themselves for real. And I think that is deeply, deeply needed. So thank you for being so open and disclosing, because that will hopefully encourage other people to share their stories as well.
Hopefully. Thank you also for sharing your experiences. And it opens one question and answered it in my head already. Is everyone able to cope with what I then will tell them? And then I told myself in my head, no, but you'll see if that person might be ready or not. And then you might just want to take the leap of faith of telling them, hey, actually, I've not been on holiday, but I've been with my son in the hospital. And as you said, that will lead to many more good conversations. Also, like, what if that goes wrong? And it's like, just take the leap of faith. Otherwise, you'll never know, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You never know until you try. So that leads us nicely into my final question. I have the same for everyone. And it's, what would you say to leaders facing an important choice?
There's nothing to it but to do it. Because that just popped into my head. I was always questioning myself, is that the right choice? Is that the right thing to do? Should I do it? Like, what if not? And so on. It's like, there's nothing to it, just do it. Take the decision, live with the consequences if you know what they are. If you don't know what they are, also live with them and try to maneuver through it. But take the choice that is most agreeable with your own conscience.
Thank you. Stefan, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I hope you don't have a back-to-back meeting immediately after our call, but a little downtime, as we just said.
Thank you, Lise, as well, for having me. And it was a pleasure talking to you and with you.
I hope you enjoyed listening to today's Unconventional Leader. Subscribe to the podcast for more episodes like this. And if you too are someone who does things differently, join me on Substack for more leadership insights. The link is in the description below.